All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the National Jazz Museum in Harlem. My name is Ryan. I work here in the programming department, and on behalf of our executive director, Tracy Hyder-Suffren, and our artistic team of Jonathan Batiste and Christian McBride, we want to welcome you here tonight. How many of you, is this your first time here at the museum? All right, wonderful. So those of you first-timers, welcome. Come back, please. You're going to have a great time tonight. This is a very casual environment. It's an opportunity to see world-class musicians in a small, intimate space. We don't bug you for minimums. We don't bug you for cover charges. We're not going to be slinging you $12 cocktails. This is all free and open to the public. And we're able to do that because some really significant funders believe in our mission, believe in what we do. And when possible, individuals decide to leave us a little donation, and that goes a long way to continuing to support us and allow us to continue these free programs. We do over 100 a year, all of which are free. If you would like to make a small donation or a big donation, we'll take either, but we make it really easy for you because you can drop a little cash in the cash box at the front door. There's a dip jar. You can just dip your debit card or credit card in there. It will do $10. And you can also go to our website, jmih.org, and make a donation on our website. You can also, if you'd like to keep in touch with us, especially for the first-timers, I'm not sure how you learned about this event, but one of the easiest ways to keep in touch is our email newsletter that goes out every Friday. You can sign up for that again, jmih.org is our website, a quick and easy way to keep in touch. We are on all the social media outlets as well, so feel free to follow us, and we keep that as updated as we can. Just a quick heads up, tomorrow evening we do have a concert over at Aaron Davis Hall at City College, 7 p.m., featuring Carmen Lundy. That is a paid event, but it's going to be an outstanding show, and we really would love to have you with us tomorrow as well. Tonight concludes the curation of one of our good friends, Joel Ross. How many of you know of Joel's music? Yeah? All right, very good. So Joel is one of the museum's Jazz Is Now curatorial fellows this year. We have two of them, Joel Ross and Andia Owens. And about 12 years ago, John Batiste started doing programming here at the museum and eventually became one of our artistic directors. And on the growth and the path that he's been on, one of the things that he's challenged us with is to continue to make sure that younger artists have an opportunity not only to present their music, but to curate shows, to experiment, to bring people in, to build community around the energy that they're putting forth into the music world. And that is why we started the Jazz Is Now Curatorial Fellowship. The application process will go live in January for 2023. Any artist between the ages of 18 and 30 that is interested, the information will be on our website. The application process is pretty simple, but we will ask you to put together a little bit of materials for that. 18 and 30, it does come with a stipend. So a great opportunity to, again, not only present music, but curate other shows and curate non-live music events. And that brings us to tonight. It's going to be an incredible night of music and conversation. We do encourage you to participate. There will be opportunities to field questions and to ask. We will ask you to speak loud so we can hear you. We are streaming the event as well, and we have microphones around that will pick up your voice, but only if you speak loud. So we encourage you to think about the questions and come up with some good ones. So we're going to get things started tonight. The title of tonight is The So of Itself, Unchanging Perspective, and this is with drummer Jeremy Dutton. So please welcome Jeremy Dutton, Harish Raghavan, and Ben Wendell. Thank you so much.
I'm actually kind of scared that this was on when I picked it up, because that means if I would have started playing, then that would have been bad. So good thing I didn't change the script like I normally do and start playing before I start talking. But Welcome. I just wanted to welcome everybody here. I'm grateful for you all being here with us. We're going to play some music for you. I really would like to hear your perspectives on, anything that I say, anything that I play, anything that any of us play. Um, I said on Instagram, if you follow me on Instagram, which, some people do. I can't say that I 100% recommend it, but but I said there that I get a lot of questions online. Like I'm sure we all do get questions online all the time, and then sometimes you have time to answer because it's like a quick thing, but other times you just end up being like, I'll get back to you, or like, seen at 6:20, and then you'll be, 2 weeks later, you're like, hey, great question. Let me answer now that I have some time to do that. But this is a time, if you play drums, if you play music in general, to definitely ask some questions, anything that you want answered. Okay, almost anything you want answered, uh, we can answer up here for you. Again, I just wanted to introduce the people that are up here with me, two of my favorite musicians and people, two people that I consider like heroes of mine and also just very cool guys. On saxophone, that's Ben Wendell. Ah. On bass, that's Harish Raghavan. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna get started. Thank you. Please turn this mic off. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I wanted to stop before, you know, I didn't do any talking at all, and this became a concert where I was just playing again, which is kind of the, the downside of hiring musicians that you love to play with so much, because you're like, God, I'm supposed to talk, I'm supposed to say things, but at the same time, I don't really want to stop playing. So it's kind of a hard thing. You have that mental battle where it's like, I don't think anybody's gonna be disappointed if you don't say anything. I mean, most of these people don't know what your voice sounds like anyway. If they want to hear you talk, they go somewhere else. Like, okay, cool. But I said, I'm a man of my word, if nothing else, and I wanted to stop and talk to you about. God, this is so serious now. But I want to stop and talk to you about, the serious issues and announce my candidacy. No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. No, I wanted to stop and talk briefly about what this concert is centered around. The title of it was called "The Soul of Itself: Unchanging Perspective." If you've been keeping up with me online, then you've been seeing me say, interesting things. I'll say interesting because it's a nice word for probably what I've been saying online, but basically just talking about Taoism and sort of the Taoist book, which is the Tao and the Power, or Tao Te Ching, however you want to pronounce it, Tao Te Ching, whatever, It's not really whatever, but it's whatever because I don't want anybody. I said something to somebody the other day and they just like flew off the handle. So I was like, okay, well, it's whatever, as long as it means something to you, it's fine. I don't. But I came into this whole thing, like Taoism and relating it to music, I came in because of a student of mine. Actually, a few years ago, I was saying something at the end of a lesson and, preaching like I normally do at the end of a lesson to try to give people hope for the next lesson and hope for their lives. And he said, he messaged me afterwards and he was like, man, so much of the stuff that you're saying reminds me of this thing I just read about. It was an article that was about Bruce Lee. And he was like, and I wonder if you'd mind if I sent this to you to check it out. And what he sent me was something called The Six Diseases. And it was an article about, Bruce Lee's philosophy. For those who in here is familiar with Bruce? I mean, everybody knows who Bruce Lee is, I assume, right? But how many of you know, like, a little bit more about his personal life and sort of his philosophy? Has anyone ever checked out his books? Bruce Lee, in addition to being this great, great martial artist and serious, just all-around bad dude, was super, super into Taoism and philosophy. And he wrote a book, or he was writing a book before he died, and then after he died, they published it as a book based on like the sketches that he had left. And I believe the book is called the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, which was this martial arts style that he came up with. But the first half of the book is all just philosophy. Like there's no martial arts mentioned in it at all. It's all just like this kind of philosophy stuff. I'll tell you what. How many of you have seen that? There's a viral clip of Bruce Lee, if you're on social media, that's gone around, where Bruce Lee is talking about being water. Has anyone heard that, seen that? Yes, no? Show of hands. Okay, good. It's good that you haven't seen it. If you haven't seen it, it's actually good because it gives me something to say to you that you've not heard before, which is a relief. Bruce Lee basically, and I'm sorry I'm reading this on my phone, everyone, but you know how New York is. I had planned to print all this out, and then it's, of course, the day of the show, printer problems, all that nonsense. So anyway, exactly, Green Initiative, that's what it really was, and I'm glad that somebody brought that up. I don't like to brag about it, but that's just how I do. No, but okay, so in the clip, Bruce Lee is talking to this person that's interviewing him, but this is kind of what he says. Empty your mind, be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. put water into a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Water can flow or creep or it can crash. Be water, my friend. And in that clip, it's a really powerful clip. You should definitely, if you've never seen him say anything or seen him talk before an interview, you should definitely see it because it's so, it's one thing for me to say it, right? But to see him say it, and it's just, you can see how much it means to him, this phrase. But that was one of the first, other than the 6 diseases, which my students sent me, that was one of the only other things I had ever heard by Bruce Lee that was not like, okay, you see him in Enter the Dragon or, on television or whatever. But it really made me curious just about, where all these concepts come from. And it's all just Taoist. It's not all just, but it's basically Bruce Lee's take on Taoist philosophy. And it kind of brought me closer to myself and brought me closer to, honestly, it made me able to communicate more with students and with other people about, what it is we do on stage, because I feel as though in teaching, I don't know how many of you in here teach, but if you teach anything, you always, if you talk long enough to any student, you find yourself contradicting yourself. At some point or another, you inevitably start talking like, well, okay, I told you, I know I told you not to do that earlier, but now actually it's a good time for you to do what I told you not to do. And so students, if you're lucky, you have a student that's like, okay, I get that, like I understand. But if you're, if it's just like anybody else, they're like, what do you mean? Like, because you told me not to do that, and now you're telling me it's okay. Which situation is it okay in? And unsurprisingly, Taoist philosophy, or surprisingly to me, as I started to learn more about Taoist philosophy, it basically, it expresses a lot of contradictions. It expresses basically and what I consider the fullness of life, and just sort of every aspect of all the different aspects of nature, all the different aspects of people that seem to contradict with one another and you would think maybe cancel each other out. It kind of is this idea of all those things existing all at once. And so, obviously that's a big ask to consider all of that at the same time as like, well, listen, both things are true, because I think on some level it's our brains, we naturally are looking for symmetry. We're looking for like, well, if it's this time, now, then it needs to be that time the next time too. But knowing musicians, like coming up and learning from great musicians, playing with great musicians, has taught me, kind of how to not cancel that part of myself out, but like accept kind of the full range of what that could mean to different people and in different situations, in terms of like, 2 things are true at once. I know I told you to do this right before we got on stage, but now with what's happening, it's actually time for the opposite thing of what I told you. And I can't tell you how many times that actually, I don't think about it in the moment, but afterwards we laugh about it, because it's like, that's what happened, is that before we got on stage, we agreed that we were going to do something and we were going to play something a certain way. And it was like, yeah, definitely when I do this thing, then that means this. And then you get on stage and you're like, you can feel it, hopefully, if you're listening, and everyone's like, uh-oh, actually, it means the opposite of what I said. It kind of means the opposite of what I said. Like, do the other thing. Please do the other thing. And usually, when you follow those strands of thought without judging them, you sort of come into this place musically that you're not expecting. So much of what we were doing up here just now, even on the blues, and on that second tune, which was called Chamber by Joel Ross. Shout out to Joel. Thanks for having us so much. It was just, we had communicated what we were going to do, but only in a loose sort of way beforehand. And even on the blues especially that we played, the first thing we played, I realized this while we were playing. It's like we were kind of playing it for a while. Like it was clear that everyone was thinking of like 2 different tempos in their mind the whole time. Basically, it's like, because we were kind of playing slower first, and then Ben came in and he was hinting at this faster tempo. But instead of, just being like, okay, jump with him, we kind of were like, well, what if we just sort of, what if we don't? Like, what if we just leave that, let Ben like have that faster tempo, let him be on that different sort of thing, let that contradiction exist between this faster thing that's happening and this slower thing that we're perpetuating. And then eventually we ended up, somewhere where we didn't expect to go, but we kind of, it just linked up. But that's so much, again, it's not like a conscious thing, but that's so similar to a lot of Taoist ideas, some of which I'll go into after we play again, because this was longer than I was planning on talking. But as maybe was said before, if you all have any questions as audience members, I really did want this, when they told me about the forum for this concert, or, how they wanted it to be, I really was interested in like making it kind of an open forum in terms of, hearing from the audience and hearing what y'all think in real time, rather than, on Instagram in my mentions is like, what the no, kidding. no, on Instagram or just in some other place, or when I run into you randomly on the street or something like that. So if you have some questions, please hold on to them. Please think of more, because I definitely am going to be like, okay, are there any questions? And yeah, I want to welcome back Ben Wendell to the stage if he's there. Yeah, ooh. The great Harish Raghavan on bass. Thank y'all so much for coming. We're going to keep playing for you. We're about to keep playing for you in just a second. Cat's got to get water. You know what I mean? Why? Cat's got to hydrate. Listen, hydration, which if you're not above the age of 21, you may not understand how important that is. But believe me, as I've gotten older, I've been like, God damn. Why do I feel so tired? Every day I wake up, I feel like taking a nap. It's like, you haven't had any water today, have you? It's like, yeah. It's like, man. Anyway, thank y'all so much. Oh, my God. Full circle. Be water. See? See? That is so good. All right. Yeah, just basically that, and then we go on. Let me never come back. right, Truman it is. Or not Truman Score. Well, just as I planned, we're pretty much out of time. So, but okay, first off, before I say anything else, is there anyone in the audience, or do you guys have questions? Is there anyone with a question? We're not gonna judge you. I feel like whenever you ask that kind of thing, I swear probably 10 people had questions. There you go. You, sir. See, it's like I'm gonna say it. It's like, have you ever noticed when you cough in public, like at a concert, it's like 3 people cough after you every time. Like there'll be absolute silence, and then somebody goes, and then it's like, everybody joins in. They're like waiting for permission. So, thank you for being the first to ask a question, man. Go ahead.
Thanks so much for playing.
Thanks.
Sorry if I am really bad at phrasing what I'm about to ask, but
That's okay.
basically, I was just curious, when you guys, this goes to all of you, when you guys are sitting down to play music, what process do you go through to get out of your instrument and get into the music and get away from what you've just been practicing the other day, or if that makes sense?
It totally does. I'll start because I have the microphone, but I'll make my answer short, basically, which is that I try not to practice the things that for myself, I try not to practice the things that I'm gonna play on stage. Most of the things that I practice are like all fundamentals. So, say I'm listening to how that process works for me is like, say I'm listening to a record, or I'm listening to somebody live and I hear them play something, and maybe I'll sit down and I'll try to play it. And if I can't play it, then instead of trying to spend like, however long learning that one phrase, I try to figure out why I can't play that phrase. So, which always ends up being like, you have to break it down to fundamentals. Like, so what fundamentally is happening with this phrase that you're hearing? Is it, for me, it's rhythm. So is it like, what note range is it? Is it triplet? Is it something about the beat that it's on? You know what I mean? Is it in triplets, or is it a phrasing thing? Is it an independence thing? Is it a technical thing? Is it any number of those things? And then whatever it is that I find out that it is, I try to work on those, find fundamental things to like target that kind of stuff. So if it's a technical thing, then I find things to do that will work on my technique as a whole. And I've always done it, not always, but I've done it that way for a long time now. And I feel as though it's the better way to do things, because when you spend time, at least for me, when you spend time just learning one thing, all you walk away with is that one thing. That's it. But if you break down that one thing and say, okay, what is it made of? Sure, when you come back to that one phrase that you're trying to play, you can play that, but then you might, along the way, you'll have like 10 other ideas that are like, oh, okay, like this is all kind of cool stuff. So you don't just have this one phrase that you heard somebody play. You have like a bunch of other stuff that you can play and use and express. Harish or Ben, do you guys want to add anything?
Well, I didn't know I'd be talking.
Harish Ragavan.
I suppose this is a moment where you might get different answers based on your level of development. And there is a moment in time, especially when you first start playing, where you do need to be playing all the time, hours and hours and hours and hours. And there's not like a big separation between playing and practicing. However, once you develop like a certain amount of technical fluency on the instrument, I think that you need to separate your practicing and playing time. And when you're ready to make that leap, it's just a cognitive thing, it's just a mindset. So no longer are you sitting at home and just playing and playing and playing. Now it's like focused, because the goal is to just get better, whatever that means to you,
Yeah, I think a question that comes up a lot is how do you work on, for example, not being nervous when you play live, which I think connects to your question in a way, just like how do you get out of the way of yourself? Because you're the number one sabotager is yourself, always. It's your mind, it's the feeling in your body and all this stuff. So just kind of piggybacking off of what Harish said, yeah, repetition and practicing, and then repetition and playing live. I've worked on, I've like read tons of books about, for example, like how do athletes just constantly perform at their top level, like what's the mental game. I'm very interested in that kind of stuff, which I think connects to performance. But I think at the end of the day, the thing that's helped me the most is just the sheer repetition of playing live, which is just really, on every level, cognitively, is a really intense, energetic experience that you can't practice, right? So it's sort of like you have to get used to, you have to do it so much that it becomes a little familiar, or not boring, but just like, so your body is used to it. It's not this foreign, like, oh my God, this overwhelming feeling. So mostly it's just doing it a lot, and by any means necessary.
Yeah, you have to let go, man. It's a hard thing to do, but that's what has to happen. Great question. Thank you for starting this whole thing off. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I have like a twofold question, but before that, I went to a program the other day, and they had a set, and I sat there for like 45 minutes, and they came on the stage, they played for 45 minutes, and left. So I appreciate you guys opening up the floor for questions.
Of course.
The issue around style, I'm trying to find out, do you develop your own style? Because I know a lot of musicians, they're trying to find their unique style. Everybody's finding, their niche. Yeah. And I'm wondering, in terms of the twofold question, how long have you been playing, and what is your style? Is this someone you emulating, or you try to create your own style?
That's a great question, and thank you so much for. I'm glad you appreciate the format. I was a little nervous about it, to be honest with you, because most of the time, the first group that you described, that's kind of what we do. We play 45 minutes, and then we're like, all right, peace. For myself, I'll answer both sides. So from a style perspective, I I think it's just my background is like I just was never I'm the only musician in my family. So and which means that I'm the only jazz musician in my family. Which means that like I'm really the only person that really was like checking out jazz and stuff when I was younger, which is cool. But also what was cool about that is that, you know, my family always gave me space to, you know, be myself and like, okay, if you like jazz, whatever. We think it's weird, but it's fine if you like it. But at the same time, I was always hearing like rap music from my older brothers. I was hearing, you know, gospel music from my mom, and then my uncle loved like just all kinds of stuff like Erykah Badu and just like everything. So I always had those influences coming into things, and I'm from Houston originally, and I feel like the story is the same for a lot of musicians from Houston, where you kind of grow up hearing a lot of different stuff all at the same time. So for myself, I never really thought of those things as separate. I always just figured out, I always just thought of them as like, it's all just in the category of music I love. So like whether it's, you know, we could be listening to Giant Steps, or we could be listening to, you know, Biggie Smalls, or we could be listening to Erykah Badu, or we could be listening to Lil Wayne, the Carter 3, or something like that in the car with my brothers, whatever, you know. Whatever it was, I kind of always thought of it as the same thing. And then when I came to college, that was kind of the first time that I had really heard like a lot of people talking about or concerned with I got to find my own style. And it's interesting because I feel like I have students now who say the same thing. And personally, I feel as though as the older I've gotten, the more I've seen like your personal style is kind of, it's kind of ingrained, it's already present, like it's in who you are, it's in the decisions that you make, because no two people make decisions the same way. The problem, the thing is, can you accept that? Can you accept who you are? Can you accept your true style? Can you get in touch? Can you really be interested in getting in touch with that person? Because that's hard to do, because, you know, when you're going to school and you hear people that you love, you really want to sound like those people. You'll be like, well, I want to sound like, you know, Jeff Tain Watts. And it's like, and if it doesn't sound like Tain, then I don't want to. It's like, well, you might sound, you know, like not Tain, but that might still be cool. It's like, but are you willing to go through the process of being like, okay, in that you're going to sound like yourself, you're also, you know, sometimes you go through the process of seeing, you know, nothing is of figuring out how to express that, what works, what doesn't work, like, you know, good gigs, bad gigs, good times, bad times, and I really feel like that's part of the process. And the last thing I'll say in this very long-winded answer is that I'd really, really always appreciate something that Miles Davis said, not to be that guy that quotes Miles Davis, but that's what I'm gonna do. Pull out my Miles Davis card. But he says in his autobiography, he says, sometimes it takes you a long time to play like yourself. And I always have appreciated that, because I think it, in a way, it's always a reference kind of the thinking that I've had around it, which is that it's not, it can take you time to get in touch with that style, whatever your inherent style is, and there has to be a certain amount of knowledge and practice, like what Harish was saying. Like you gotta practice, you gotta, you know, learn things and understand what you're doing. But there's also that process of like, okay, after that, you kind of have to start to have some honest conversations with yourself, and it's very hard to do that, especially when you're honest with yourself and listening back or something, and like, I don't like the way that sounds. But that's just, I don't know. The fact that the idea of it taking a long time for you to sound like yourself, to me, sounds like it takes you a long time to sound like yourself. Sometimes it's not gonna sound good. It's like, just keep going, you know, keep looking for that. Keep getting to know yourself. I don't know if Harish or Ben, do y'all want to add anything? I mean, I kind of throwing y'all on the spot, sorry.
I'm gonna follow a Miles Davis quote with a Pablo Picasso quote, who also said, it takes a long time to be young. And I think it's kind of a similar idea which is like you already are who you are. Your individuality it's already there, but then you have to go through those different, like sort of the different stages of the hero. You know what I mean? Like the going into battle and failing and being reborn and all these things. But I personally, like in terms of all of that stuff, what I noticed in my own experience is basically the moment I started to recognize that I was just part of this long continuum, that the music that I play, it's like I'm living in a house that people already built for me, and I get to be in that house. It's already there, and the moment I basically started to express all the things that I love about what's inside the house, like, oh, I love, and the things inside the house are the way that people play before me, you know, like the masters or even my peers. And the moment I just let that come through me, just like, this is what I love, then people said that I started to sound like myself, which I thought was really interesting. So in a way, it's trying to sound like yourself is, I think, is probably the thing that will make it least likely that you will sound like yourself. And getting rid of that goal and instead just expressing all the things that you love, that your love of everybody else, basically, then you start to sound like yourself. So I don't know. I don't even know if that's specifically the question you were asking, but that's what I've noticed. All right.
Any other questions? I only got two. There we go, three. All right. I need at least three to sleep at night. Okay. No, I'm kidding.
Thank you for being here so much. My question is, I'm curious what drew you to each of your respective instruments. What do you love about them, and why did that instrument come to be your voice?
I'll keep my answer short this time. Thank you for coming out. No, I'm kidding. Thank you. Good night. No. No, it was good. It was good. It was good. No, for myself, I always loved playing drums. Even before I even knew that this was something that I was going to do as a living, I just love playing drums. And as I've gotten older, God, it really feels like I've been doing this like all the time, forever. And I don't know how to describe to you sort of just the way that it feels to play your instrument in any to play this instrument like in any space and feel like this is a way that I understand the world, and this is kind of a way that I understand myself. So that's why for me, I mean, I love it. I love other instruments too, but I can't play those. So so I just love the one that I can play, and that's, you know, it's never led me wrong.
I chose the sax. I was in 5th grade, and Mr. Metler was my teacher. I went to a public middle school, and there was the day where it's like he brought out all the instruments, you know, the clarinet, the trumpet, all that, and I saw the saxophone, and I was like, that's cool looking. I didn't even know what it sounded like, but I would have to say in later years, I think the reason I'm drawn to the saxophone is because my mom was a professional opera singer for 30 years, and I think I basically, even when I was in the womb, I was hearing her voice and the range of her voice, and so I think it makes sense to me that I was drawn to an instrument that's like a kind of like a voice, basically. So that's why I like the saxophone. Harish, I can't wait to hear your answer, man.
Same, man, except
Really?
saxophone with bass.
Really? You saw the bass and you
It's all the same.
really?
And replace drums with bass, and then you got me.
Wait, seriously? You saw the bass and you wanted to play it?
Oh, I started bass late. I started playing drums, so I like drums.
Uh-oh.
But I just wasn't good, you know. And I like being good. Once you get to a certain point where you can realize, like, damn, man, I'm not, like, it's not happening. So I figured it had 4 strings, you know. Why not give it a shot? Got it, you know. That's about, I mean, you know. Yeah, you know, it worked out.
Well, thank y'all so much. I feel as though I think we all could talk more about everything that's happening, and I definitely could talk to you all more about Taoism and just everything that goes along with it. But there's actually the first the first thing in the book of, you know, the kind of the lead book of Taoism, literally the first poem or whatever you want to call it, like one of the first sentiments expressed is that there are not words to really express what we're trying to tell you about is something that we really, basically that's what it says. It's like, what we're trying to tell you is something we really can't tell you through words. Here's 5,000 more words about that thing that we can't really tell you about directly. But this is, you know, kind of it. But I just, again, wanted to thank everybody. I wanted to thank Ryan for having us, the National Jazz Museum of Harlem. I want to thank all of y'all for being here, for sure. And I wanted to thank Harish Raghavan again on bass. I wanted to thank Ben Wendell on saxophone. Thank you to the great Joel Ross is in the back. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Doc. No, you know, I met Joel. No, I was kidding. I was just kidding. Thank y'all so much for having us. My name is Jeremy Dutton. Thank you. Yeah, man. I'm very, very reachable. We're all reachable. You know, I'm not on some celebrity anything. So, yeah, just reach out to me if you have questions or you want to say anything that's positive. I'm kidding. Thank y'all so much, man. See y'all next time. Isabella.
All right, thanks everybody for coming again tomorrow night over at Aaron Davis Hall. Carmen Lundy, if you want to join us, 7 o'clock. We'd love to have you. Get home safe and try to stay dry. Take care. We'll see you soon.